Welcome back to another episode of Titans of Food Service. I appreciate you joining me here again on my journey interviewing the movers and shakers in the industry. Today, I welcome David Youngberg. He is the CEO of Stonefire Grills. He's the definition of an operator at heart. His journey started more than 40 years ago behind the counter at McDonald's, where he fell in love with the heartbeat of the restaurant business operations. The details, the pace, the people, the systems, it hooked him at an early age. And that early passion for getting restaurants to run better, faster, cleaner, and more profitably has guided his entire career. Since then, David has grown into a respected industry leader with decades of hands-on experience, improving unit performance, building operational playbooks, developing teams, and helping food service organizations scale with discipline. He understands the restaurant business, not from just the boardroom, but from the back of the house, the front line, and the day-to-day realities that make or break success. In his career, he's been the managing partner of Pacific Ocean Restaurants, VP of Ops for BJ's Restaurants, and now obviously the CEO of Stonefire Grills. In today's conversation, we delve into what operations really means at a high level, what has changed and what hasn't in the past 4 decades, and the lessons David believes every operator, leader, and brand should carry into the future. Without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome David. All right, David, welcome to the Titans of Food Service podcast. I appreciate you jumping on here and meet with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I know we were talking a little off camera about the rain and how crazy it is here this week and last week that we just never, we never really experienced it. But here we are,
Right.
in all in rain and all its glory.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me, how did you go back to the beginning? How did you get into the food business?
High school, my first job at 15 and a half was at McDonald's. And they were opening a brand new McDonald's in the town I was living in, and applied and got a job as a grill cook. And it was just, I tell this story to anybody I can tell it to. You don't realize it when you get there, but as I grew older and the systems in place, like there was a specific way of doing everything there. Like they taught that to you, right? Like I would have to say, you go back now, and I go back 40 years, right, to that date, and I can still remember how they taught me how to put burgers on the grill, taught me how to put ketchup on the bun, and the mustard and the two pickles, and how do you make fries, and exactly how to rip the bag and pour it in, and fryers, and there wasn't timers on the fryers, right? We had little timers that we had to set in order to do the fries. So just everything was so meticulous. And I didn't really realize it until I jumped to another job in food service, which was very chaotic. And one manager told you one thing, another manager told you another. This was a full service restaurant, and I just was so confused. And McDonald's just taught me the basics of, and also the basics of training, of managing people. The franchisees were in the restaurant all the time, a husband and wife team, and they were always talking to us, the team members, and asking us how things were, and asking us what guests were saying, and just they always wanted feedback. And it just told me that when I vaulted my career forward, let's say when I went to work for BJ's, the founders were in the restaurants all the time. They were in the rest. Like I remember training in the restaurants, and they were in there wanting to sit at a table and have you wait on them. So that entrepreneurial spirit of just wanting to be ingrained in everything you do. And I find now in the position that I'm in, I'm an operator, right? I'm not a CEO that was a CFO or a CMO. I was an operator. So I'm in the restaurants all the time. I want to know what's going on. I want to see how things are happening. I want to know, is every team member happy? Do they have the tools that they need, or all the things that we're doing? So I really think that some of my experiences vaulted me to where I'm at now, that really allow me to be involved in every single detail of the operation.
Yeah. On the McDonald's front, what do you think is, at that time? And I mean, if you look at them nowadays too, like they're huge, a global brand, and the way that they're able to run their business. What were some of the keys to success in terms of when you go into McDonald's, whether it's in the city of Tustin, where I grew up, or West Covina, where you're at, it's the same. The layout is the same. How are they able to do that so well?
Look, I think, if it's interesting now trying to mirror every restaurant that you open, right? And every restaurant that you have in the chain. We have 13 restaurants in our chain, one of them being a full service restaurant, but the other 12 are fast casual restaurants, but they're all different size. They're all different boxes. They all have different kitchens and so forth. I think what they did right back then, is they started building that box. They had that prototype exactly the way it needed to be. I think that they already had efficiencies laid out 40 years ago on how they were going to grow the business. And then they've just refined it from there. I think also when you think about training systems, I still remember exactly the procedures that they put in place for how you cooked burgers and how you flipped burgers and like how you wrapped a burger. And I mean everything. It was just down to the little details. I still remember those things. It's really crazy. I would love to like find someone who works at McDonald's and say, "Is this how you still do it?" Because I still think it is. Because if you go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger, it's still wrapped the same way. If I pull the bun off the top, there's still, I believe, two pickles and your ketchup, your mustard, your cheese, how it's laid. It's all the same. But I believe the trading systems were in place back then too. So, and I guess I would have to say is that for someone like them, it's franchising, right? So if they're all company restaurants, it's one thing, but when you're franchising, now you're having to hand something over to someone and say, here's exactly how you do it. And if you mirror this, your operations will go well. But you have to hand them something that is scalable, that's understandable, that people can learn from. I mean, you can't hand them a big like mess and go, here you go, right? Like it's very and so I think about that in every little thing that we do in our business today. Everything that we do has to be understandable. It has to be clear. The expectation has to be understood, what we're expecting out of it, everything. So
In my business, I'm a food service broker, so we represent different food products. I think we worked with someone on your team a few years ago on King's Hawaiian, maybe. Um,
oh yeah,
and
great
so,
promotion we did with them. I love that brand. I was
yeah,
so excited to do the pulled pork sliders with them. That was fantastic.
yeah, it's a great product. So essentially, what we do is we go and work with restaurant chains or casinos, anywhere people eat away from home and present different products. Then you could buy it through whatever distributor that you use. Um, And so that's the nature of our business. We have offices in Southern Cal, in Northern Cal, Las Vegas, and Hawaii. And it's very interesting. In a people business, everyone has their ideas of how they want it to be run. And, Las Vegas is uniquely different than Honolulu, Hawaii. When you came into Stonefire, looking at the business, how were you able, with the operations background that you had and where they were at that time, how are you able to come in and build that structure so that each location feels and operates very similar to one another?
Well, the number one thing was people. You said it's a people and people first business. And I've said it. I don't know. I read Charles Schultz books on Starbucks, and he said we're not in the coffee business, we're in the people business. And I took that and molded it into we're not in the food business serving people, we're in the people business serving food. And I literally have lived by that statement forever because we can't do anything unless we have great people. The beautiful thing was coming to Stonefire, they already had a people first program. So my thing was great. How do we take that? Now let's make that better. Because the only way we're going to grow, the only way we're going to have great team members, the only way they're going to do the things that we need them to do and cook the food the way we want them to cook them and be able to talk to the guests the way that we expect is by making sure that we have the right people. It's hiring 51 percenters. It's making sure we have the right people in the right seats on the bus to make sure that we can move forward. So that was really making sure that we had the people piece and the leadership piece. I'm constantly stating two things. The most important person in our organization, in Stonefire's organization, or any restaurant brand, is the person who is standing right in front of the guest and interacting with them,
Mm.
taking their order, delivering their food, fixing maybe something that's wrong, complimenting them, like that hospitality piece, right? Making it's how they make them feel, right? That's the difference between service and hospitality. Service is something you do for somebody. Hospitality is how you make them feel. So that's the most important person in there. The most important role, I believe, in our company is in general manager because the general manager hires, develops, trains. gathers the team. They're not only the offensive coordinator, but they're the defensive coordinator. But they're offensive coordinator by building sales and keeping everything where everyone moving in the right direction. And then defensively, they're making sure that I got staffing right, I got these things right, and so forth. So I think that was the piece with Stonefire, is that they already had it. So all we had to do is just rally everybody together and kind of focus moving forward on it. But that was really the biggest piece. And once we have that, and we have that now, we have team members that like their jobs or love their jobs, and they understand their jobs, and they know what's expected of them on a day in and day out basis. And now it's just bringing in tool sets to augment that and make it better.
When we do our hiring process, as a we're a family owned business, so like some of the things that we look for is, someone who's family first minded, because we find that when someone's happy and healthy at home, it translates into the workplace, right? I like what you said, that the most important person is the one standing right in front of the customer, making sure that they have a really great experience. It was funny. I know you mentioned that you worked at BJ's. We got a new BJ's in Tustin, where I grew up many, many years ago. And I think we were there for like the first week when it first opened, and our food came. It was a little slow, I think, to start. And the manager came over, and I'll never forget this. He goes, "I want to get you guys a free Pizookie." And my parents, I was a kid at the time. My parents were like, "What's a Pizookie? We just want our food." um, but you mentioned in your hiring process, you're looking for 51 percenters. What is that?
It's a Danny Meyer term that you want to hire people with a 51% emotional capability. The 49% are all the other pieces, but you want to hire someone with the emotional capability to be able to engage with guests. They want to be, you want those people that are driven by service. They're driven by hospitality. They're driven by those extra pieces, right? Those little things that are going to make it better for the guest.
How do you find that in someone in the interview process?
I guess the questions that you ask, you can definitely, when you easy question is, so how do you handle a guest that had a problem with their food? How do you handle, someone who's complaining about something? If, say, we messed up an order, how would you handle it? Or give them a scenario, maybe a role play situation, and say, walk me through how you would handle this. I think in just questions that you ask about their job, and like you said, their family. And I know there's, we live in California, so there's only so many things you can ask somebody, right?
Of
But
course.
I do think that you can delve into how they treat people, how they understand people, how, are they empathetic? Are they understanding? Are they, just are they giving people? Are they genuine? Are they authentic? I mean, I think that's the biggest piece, is finding people that are authentically true to themselves, and they're emotionally connected with other people. It's this is an industry that's really based on, people come into a restaurant and they want to enjoy, right? They want to enjoy their food. They want to enjoy. I've always looked at the restaurant business as being an escape from home.
Hmm.
You got like right now, you got a husband and you got a wife, and or just a family with kids, and both of them are working and they don't want to have to cook dinner. So let's just take the family out. Well, great. If you're going to take the family out, we already know now, especially in this day and age, it's incredibly expensive to take your family out to eat. So if you're going to take them out to eat, you're going to have to get something in return for that money, not just great food, but you want a great experience. So I've always looked at the restaurant business as being an escape from reality. So if you have people surrounding you, like when you go to I don't know, if you go to Hawaii and go to a resort, there's an aloha mentality, right? Like kick back, like enjoy. We've got a beautiful beach, have a Mai Tai, whatever it is. Like it's a vacation. Dinner out is a vacation from having to do dishes, having to cook the food, having to serve it. Your kids can order what they want. I mean, that's why I think that piece is so important.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Because I view in my own life, when I go out and eat or take my family out, it is an experience. I like how you said it. It's an escape. It's something I look forward to, and it's the places that you build memories as well. Is when you eat out. And what about? I know. So the setup for your locations, it's fast casual, right? You order at the front and then you go sit down. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you take the customer experience to another level with that, where you don't have like the traditional waiter or waitress that comes by and takes your order?
Well, we're really like almost a hybrid business. You know, we are. I call it premium fast casual because it's not you're going in, you're ordering, you're going and sitting down, and someone's calling a number, and you're going up to the counter, and you are, yes, you will place your order at the table. You'll go find a table or place an order at the counter. You'll find your table. And you go fill your drinks. You grab some sauces or condiments or whatever you need. You sit down, but someone's going to bring you your food. If your beverage needs to be refilled, someone will refill the beverages. We switched our point of sale system over to Toast.
Yeah.
And with that, we have Toast handhelds. So look, we have one of the best carrot cakes in the world. And it's made from scratch every day. We've got a cheesecake that's the same way. We've got a brand new dessert that's Cinnadunks. They're just like these little pillows of goodness. You dip in cream cheese frosting and eat. It's amazing. But so how do we order those? Because a lot of times when people are up at the front, they might not think about ordering the dessert. So we actually have team members that have the handhelds that can walk through the restaurant. Well, they can also grab you an extra beer. They can grab you if someone wants an additional side item of something. And we also are recommending dessert. So we're out there talking to the guests. We're out there clearing plates. We're out there doing those type things. So that's a little bit of the extras. I mean, I would tell you that every team member at Stonefire Grill on their chest has three words: "Happy to serve," and that is the embodiment of who we are at Stonefire. We're happy to serve. We're happy to take care of the guests.
Incredible. What about when it comes to the general managers, training all of that? Do you have a formal training process in place?
We do. We do. Over the past couple years, the only thing that we've added to our structure here at our restaurant sports center is operations. We added directors of operations to basically make sure that they can oversee the restaurants and hold the standards and make sure that everything's taken care of. But we also added a director of training. So between our VP of Ops, our directors of operations, and now our director of training, and Alyssa is fantastic, and she brings with her a wealth of knowledge in operations. She was a restaurant manager and a restaurant general manager. And so she completely understands, and in full service. So she really understands that hospitality side of it. But we rewrote a brand new manager training program. We do now quarterly development with my general managers. So we've really amped up the role in general managers to really provide them with a stronger business acumen, a stronger leadership acumen, and the ability to just be all around, well-rounded restaurant professionals, but also true, relationship people to make sure that the team members are well taken care of.
Yeah, it's hard. I find in my business, you can get caught in your day to day. In my case, our team go out and selling, right? Meeting with operators and presenting our clients' products. But you have to, it's working what I would call in the business. And then working on the business would be training the team and building their skills, career skills. But it's hard because sometimes you're like, I'm so busy in the day to day that I don't have time to create the time or build the time to train my team. How do you find that time? I know you mentioned there was quarterly, but how does it structured so that you do have, you are open to be able to go in and train the team?
Well, I think, we have a really good structure to our kind of our master calendar. So it's really looking outward and saying, how are we going to, when we started 2025, it was here's the map and here's what we're going to do. And the great part was putting together quarterly meetings with general managers. We just completed our second general manager summit. So actually bringing them together at one point in time in the year and celebrating wins and giving out awards. There's also a whole day of learning that goes along with it, right? We never miss an opportunity to teach. We never miss an opportunity to review. So it really was setting those things up. And then, our vice president of operations has weekly meetings with, his directors of operations. The directors of operations have either daily meetings or weekly meetings with their general manager. So it's creating a structure, and it's also creating a structure that works and it's informative, but it also allows, you said you get caught up in your day. Well, if we have to be very careful that if we put too much on a general manager, we take away from their ability to actually work their day-to-day business. And to me, that's I think the only thing that we did, or the some of the only things that we've been really focused on, is making sure that we have our general managers get the tools that they need and the tool sets that they need, the feedback that they need so they can go execute their jobs. We want them on the floor. I don't want a general manager. I don't want a manager. I don't want an executive kitchen manager tied up in the office doing some type of reporting. So, our IT department is busy making sure that we generate reports for them. Like, we've got HR people that can help them with all the HR things that they need so that they can focus on the business. I want them out on the floor. Like, I want a general manager on the floor 80% of the time. I maybe 20% of needing to do admin work because they have it, but all the rest for the managers, man, your focus is with your team and with your guests. And so whatever we can do here at the Restaurant Support Center is make it easier for them so that they can do their jobs every day.
I love that. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, clearing the pathway so that they can do their job.
Yes.
We have a similar structure that we have a general manager for each of our markets, and the sales team reports into them. And we find sometimes they become kind of a gatekeeper, right? Trying to manage our clients, in this case, like our customers, and not making sure that they're not buried in reports and paperwork, sitting in an office. That they're actually out there, working hand in hand with the team, training them, making their own deals and sales. It's hard though. It's a fine balance to be able to do that for sure.
It is. It is. And especially in this industry, in this business, things change every day. Right. And it really can be easy for you to get pigeonholed on, no, we got to do this right now. No, we got to execute this right now. And it's like, hold on. Like, we have what's called a weekly all in. So it's a newsletter that comes out for all of our managers and all of our team members. It comes out once a week. And we make sure that we try to gather all the information so that it comes out in the all in, so that managers aren't coming into their restaurant office and there's 75 emails, right, from the home office saying, read this, read this, read this, read this. So it's just, we really are trying to structure it so we limit. And we've also done, I had some time at this year's general manager summit to be one-on-one with the general managers. It was just them and me. No one else was in the room. And it was a great time to just say, what are we doing right? What do we need to fix? And how can we help you be better? And that was a big piece, was the amount of time, being able to have enough time to do the things that they need to do, have enough time to get their reporting done, and limiting the amount of time we're taking up for them to be in meetings. And how can, it's just little things. And that was the streamlining the newsletter for them. Like, we have food to cook. We have guests that want takeout orders, that we need to get food over to DoorDash, like all these things, right? And that's the most important thing. That's what drives the company forward.
Yeah.
So it was really important to get time with them to then be able to say, this is how we're going to do things.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Going back to your time working at McDonald's, seeing the franchise owners, I think you mentioned it was a husband or wife couple
Yeah.
that owned it, and seeing them work in the units every day, and that kind of inspiring you, and now doing that here in present day for Stonefire. What does your day to day look like?
I would love for my day to day to be out in the restaurants every day, but I do know that, there's a lot of pushes and pulls. I do my best to get out into restaurants as many times a week as I can. But yeah, my day to day I have a staff of 30 people here at the Restaurant Sports Center, that we have a great team. But like, look, I understand that it's my job to keep the momentum moving forward. But my day usually, typically, you know my day starts waking up at 5 a.m. and looking at sales, right? And you're
Yeah.
looking at sales and knowing where your sales were at, and now you know how your day is going to go, and who you're going to make your first call to, and how you're going to message that. And it's, I remember a CEO, from one of the CEOs I worked with at BJ's, and his piece was, you got to get up every day and you got to figure out how you are going to move the business forward, inch by inch, however it is. And I took this from there was a young man, I think his name was Nick Nickick, and he was the first autistic person to run an Ironman. And he wore shirts that said 1%. And he and his family's whole piece was get better 1% every day, like 1% every day. And I love that because that's how I thought about it, right? I thought about,
Mhm.
okay, I just have to come into work every day and just make it better. So I think I bring that, or at least I try to bring that each and every day to the business to say, how are we going to get better? What do we need to do? How do I need to motivate people? How do I need to inspire thought and vision and collaboration and innovativeness to move the business forward each and every day. But ultimately, the best time that I ever have is going into a restaurant and talking to the team members and thanking them, but then also asking them questions: what's going right, what's not right, like because that those are the people that we're impacting, right?
Mhm.
Those are the people that we're impacting. That those are the, as I said, the most important people that we have in the organization because they are the guest facing folks. So my ability to interact with them as much as I possibly can is paramount.
Yeah, it totally makes sense, and I like that comment too on 1%. I've done a couple Ironmans, and in the training process, you can't do it all in one day. You know, it's every day kind of going through the pain and suffering of long hours of exercise, really,
Yeah.
living in your head of like I remember I'd do like a 6 hour bike ride, and then tomorrow I would do a 4 hour like little mini triathlon, and then the next day like it's hard to like you get that little sense of accomplishment, but then you're back again tomorrow, like just trying to slowly get better at something until the ultimate, the race day. um
I I 100% believe, Nick, I 100% believe that it was Ironman training that has helped me to be a better CEO. I really never believed that I could reach this plateau, and our private equity group, Good Partners, gave me that opportunity. It's been a blessing. But I will tell you that I really do believe that what I learned from doing my first Ironman, which was kind of, hey, can I get this done? Okay, I'll just go train and get it done. Just long hours, long hours, long hours, right?
yep.
And then I found a coach that basically said, here's, like, no, you can't just run. You need to do
Hmm.
interval training. You need to do hundreds. You need to do 200s. You need to do wind sprints. And then on the bike, it was, you need to do, like, here's how you build. And then it was looking at every single thing you did, right? How many calories you're putting in your body? What do you need to train? How much, how many carbs do you need to take? And then it's dissecting, you're wearing a heart rate monitor, you got a bike computer and everything. And then at the end of the ride, you're analyzing everything that you did, right? Every little detail of your ride. Did you hit the wattage that you want? Was your heart rate in the right zone? All these things. And Nick, I swear to you that all of a sudden it clicked in my head one day that, okay, if I started applying every one of these details to going back and looking at my business, looking at my restaurants, and not just looking at what their sales were for the day, but how are their hourly sales? And
Hmm.
then let me look at labor per hour. Now, oh, let me look at guest sentiment. Where are they strongest? And they're like, oh, okay, this restaurant's a little off on their lunch sentiment. So what are we doing here? Hey, maybe we need to apply a little bit more labor. Maybe we need better cooks that are going to get the food out quicker, or accuracy. I kid you not. I would love to write a book on how I took what I learned from being able to complete an Ironman, and that's made me a better leader because I 100% believe that. 100%.
It's a great analogy. I remember my first one, just training, and I didn't realize until when I crossed the finish line and I felt terrible. I was so tired. I was like, "There's a science to this." It's
Right?
I was the first one. I was like, "This is just a bucket list. I'm going to do it once, and then I'm good." Um, and I was just going just for sheer brute strength and will. Like I'm just going to make it. Uh, but then I found out that there's a nutrition component. There's your heart rate. There's your salt content, leaving through
Mhm.
sweat and all this like it's a science, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's I like the analogy between Ironman and running a business. All the details and metrics that go into it to make it successful. Uh,
Any small detail will tank it, right? Like if
Totally.
like you said, if there's one thing off in your nutrition, if you're not taking enough salt in, if you're not getting enough nutrition, if you're not getting enough carbs, if you're not just or if you push too hard on the bike and you're just don't have the leg strength to finish the run. I mean, it's a science, and I think the coach I had was one of the best in the industry. He's local in Sentia. His name's Joby Gutierrez, and it just learned a tremendous amount from him on the whole piece. But it really does apply back to business. It was it's it's crazy to think that it took that long for the light to go off in my head. And I always knew that details mattered on both sides, right? But when you melded them together down to the micronutrient, right? So take it to the business and to the minute and to the, to the check and to the guest and all those type things. It really did open my eyes to the business in a different way.
Love it. Looking into the future, what is something you want to achieve in your career that you've not yet achieved?
I want to double the size of Stonefire Grill. you know, I want to, uh, 23 years of working at BJ's, and I started there when there was 17 or 18 restaurants. When I left, there was two. We opened the 217th restaurant. I left
Wow.
right after that, and it was one of the most amazing experiences. I mean, obviously, I spent the majority of my career there, and it was so wonderful to work with so many people and watch the business grow and get to where it is. And I look at Stonefire Grill and say it's BJ's at 17 restaurants. We're at 13, but it's there. It's got the right base. It's got the right core component. We have fresh ingredients and everything's made in house fresh, and the food's healthy, and we're wallet friendly and all those things. It just it I just believe that there are 20 other cities out there that we could put a Stonefire Grill in and would be fantastic, and
Absolutely.
be able to compete with those out there. So yeah, I would that's my dream, is to stick around this place and keep growing it.
Incredible. My final question, which Ironmans did you do?
I have done Arizona full Ironmans. I've done Arizona twice, Madison, Wisconsin, Texas, and Cozumel, and then I've done 20 70.3s.
Wow.
So yeah,
The Arizona one was just this last weekend.
it was the last time,
That's what I heard. Yeah.
and I have a big number that I hit next year, 60 years old, and I really wanted to do another full just to say I can do it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do Arizona, and then I found out this year was the last year for it, and I was really disappointed. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That water
it's
was it made me pretty sick. I did the
Tempe
training
Town
day.
Lake.
Oh my gosh. I woke up in the morning of the race with a 103-degree fever. And my wife, we were like, "What are we gonna do?" Because like what 5 in the morning or something. And she's like, "Do you not want to do it?" I'm like, "I came all the way. I did all this training. Like, I have to go today. If I could stop at mid swim or whatever, and we could just call it a day." Made it all the way through, and but man, I felt terrible.
There
With
were
me
always
being
the Facebook or Instagram reels during COVID that said if you swam Tempe Town Lake, you're fine for COVID.
totally. Oh my gosh, it's gross water, and it was pretty cold too. I hope to do Coeur d'Alene at some point in the future. That seems like a beautiful one to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful course.
Well, David, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and just so excited for you, and look forward
Thank
to
you.
watching your growth and Stonefire's growth now and into the future.
I appreciate the time and great conversation. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you.